Who is better, the Rolling Stones or the Beatles? Since the Beatles and the Rolling Stones are from England and both started in the 60s, people started debating who was better. The two bands has been on the chart at the same over 50 years ago. Ever since then, the critics have been debating it out over who the better rock band is. It's an argument that many of today's senior generation might be familiar with, and both bands have strong points in their favor. I am a fan of both bands. Let's go over the arguments. The Beatles as the better band. The Beatles achieved more cultural respect and accolades over the course of their career. They became famous first on the world stage. Both bands covered the legendary American music that preceded them, but the Beatles did that first. Both bands broke onto the scene with a collection of pop singles, but the Beatles beat them to that, too. The Beatles started experimenting with albums like Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band. The Rolling Stones could never quite capture that sound, even though they tried. Both bands had some tremendous success in the 1960s. But the Beatles' shorter career span may have ensured that the albums they released were collectively stronger. Their early breakup may have been the very thing to cement their legend. The Rolling Stones as the better band. In a way, the Beatles versus Rolling Stones debate is almost like comparing apples and oranges. Sure, they're both fruit, but they taste, or sound, completely different. The Rolling Stones evolved into a full-fledged rock band as their sound evolved both before and after the Beatles broke up. While the Beatles maintained the shorter career span, the Rolling Stones were certainly the more prolific of the two bands. Some of the Rolling Stones' best-known albums, including Sticky Fingers, Exile on Main Street, Goat's Head Soup, Some Girls, and Tattoo You all came out after the Beatles broke up. The Beatles lasted a solid decade from 1960 to 1970. The Rolling Stones' last studio album, Blue and Lonesome, came out in 2016. They've also toured as recently as 2019. Over that time they've simply hit more milestones. It's hard to imagine the Lennon-McCartney combination making music that kept up with the times through such a long period the way that Keith Richards and Mick Jagger did. That's not to say that everything the Rolling Stones did in this window was profound and successful. The Rolling Stones wrote more blues while the Beatles wrote more melodic songs. So, who's the better band? Let me know who you like and why through the comment section below. This conversation can take those of us old enough back to fond memories of the 1960s. Maybe it's the first time you purchased one of their albums, or for those lucky enough, attended a show. A trip down memory lane through music. Reminds us of memories of family, friends, and other loved ones. It's hard to say, but it's fun to talk about the Beatles versus Rolling Stones debate. Thank you. Please like and subscribe.